New Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio shirt inspired by two iconic horror franchises. WWE dropped new Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio merchandise inspired by a familiar face. Liv Morgan is currently sidelined due to a shoulder injury that occurred last week. However, WWE still released a new LivDom shirt they had in the works. The new shirt for Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio draws inspiration from the fourth installment of the Chucky franchise called Bride of Chucky. The movie introduced Tiffany Valentine, Chucky's former lover, and became a fan favorite for the movie's thrills and dark humor. The original movie poster shows Chucky on the left, scarred, menacing, with a blue eye. His bride, Tiffany, is on the right. The new WWE shirt takes a similar approach, with Dom on the left while Liv is on the right. That's not the only horror link. Liv Morgan's well-known fandom of the Chucky franchise makes this collaboration particularly fitting. She even made a special appearance as herself in the Chucky TV series in 2022. However, it's worth pointing out that the shirt also shares a link to another slasher classic, 1997's Scream 2. Bride of Chucky was released in October 1998, nearly a year after Scream 2. The Chucky poster was an intentional parody of the Scream 2 poster, which featured two people in the same poses. The Scream 2 poster, however, sees the figure on the left with a brown-gold iris, while the one on the right has a blue eye. The shirt replicates this subtle feature, adding another layer to the LivDom lore. Liv Morgan, being killed by Chucky was a dream come true. Last year, Liv Morgan appeared on Insight with Chris Van Vliet and talked about her experience on the Chucky TV series. When she heard about the new show, she asked WWE to contact its creator, Don Mancini. "I never thought, ever in my life, that I would get to be on the Chucky series and get murdered by Chucky so gruesomely. It was such a pipe dream come true, something that I genuinely did not think could ever conceivably happen. And it was so graphic, I didn't even think we'd allow it to happen. I grew up just loving Chucky. Like I loved wrestling, I love Chucky, and so I saw that they were working on a series and asked WWE, do you think we can reach out and see if there's any kind of way that I can be involved, even if it's just like being on set and just watching?" WWE reached out to Don Mancini, the creator of Chucky, and I had a Zoom call with him that week. He wrote me into the show, and it was just as easy as that. I had such a great experience, they treated me like family. It was cool. I love Chucky. We have a great relationship despite the murder. LA Knight injured, Liv Morgan out several months, Pat McAfee misses WWE Raw for the third straight week, Raw attendance. The announced attendance at the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio for WWE Raw was 13,433. For the third week in a row, Corey Graves stepped in on WWE Raw commentary. With Pat McAfee missing this week's show, Graves has now joined Michael Cole at the booth for back-to-back episodes, following Wade Barrett's one-week fill-in 2 weeks prior. There's still no word on when McAfee is expected to return. Bronson Reed has taken LA Knight out of action. On the June 20th episode of Friday Night SmackDown, Reed faced Knight in singles competition. Although Knight technically won the match by disqualification, he was left worse for wear afterward. Following the match, Knight was ambushed by both Reed and Braun Breaker. Reed delivered multiple tsunami splashes, leaving Knight in serious pain. During this week's episode of WWE Raw, Michael Cole announced that Knight is now sidelined with separated rib cartilage and a bruised sternum. And finally, it was announced on Monday's episode of WWE Raw that Liv Morgan will be out of action for several months. WWE officially confirms timeline for Liv Morgan's injury absence. WWE made an official announcement on Raw about the timeline for Liv Morgan's injury absence. Liv Morgan injured her shoulder on Raw last week during a match against Kairi Sane. The star seemed to have dislocated her shoulder, and it was reported that she would be out for months. The star was set to be in a program against Nikki Bella and was also set to have a feud in defense of her women's tag team title. However, those plans are now up in the air ahead of Evolution 2. Now, WWE has another official statement about Liv Morgan's injury. WWE confirms Liv Morgan will be out for months. On the latest episode of Raw, the company confirmed via Michael Cole that Morgan would be out for several months. This essentially confirms the rumors, and it seems that all of the plans regarding Morgan are indeed up in smoke. Major concern following WWE's Liv Morgan announcement pointed out by veteran, exclusive. Liv Morgan is one of WWE's top stars at the moment and has a huge fan following behind her. She is a multiple-time world champion in the company and is currently one half of the women's tag team champions, and was seemingly set for a huge summer. However, it was confirmed on the latest episode of Raw that she will be out for several months. Wrestling veteran Vince Russo claimed that it looks like Morgan wouldn't be on the show for the next 4 months. Speaking during the latest episode of Legion of Raw on Sportskeeda WrestleBinge, Russo said that this would lead to the Raquel Rodriguez, Roxanne Perez, and Liv Morgan storyline to stretch. It seemed like Perez and Morgan were headed towards a collision with each other had Morgan's shoulder injury not taken place. The 31-year-old was injured moments into her match with Kairi Sane a few weeks prior and is now set to miss both WWE Evolution and SummerSlam, the latter of which is scheduled to be in her home state. I just can't wait to see how they drag this out with Liv and Roxanne and Rodriguez for 4 months, because I'm telling you bro, the way they made it sound tonight, you're not going to see Liv Morgan for 4 months, Russo said. 2004 onwards, meanwhile, Raquel Rodriguez is set to take on Rhea Ripley at Night of Champions in a street fight. Ripley has always had a problem with the Judgment Day since they betrayed her, and both women cost each other in their Queen of the Ring tournament matches. A match between the two was announced during the latest episode of Raw, after Rodriguez put Ripley through a table. Backstage update on how WWE plans to handle women's tag titles with Liv Morgan injured. Read more. https://www.wrestlinginc.com/1894021/backstage-update-wwe-plans-handle-women's-tag-titles-liv-morgan-injured WWE Morgan's recent injury has prompted WWE to change plans for her and her tag team partner, Raquel Rodriguez, and their women's tag team titles. As per PW Insider Elite, WWE may replace Morgan with new Judgment Day member Roxanne Perez, and Perez will team with Rodriguez going forward. A recent report revealed that WWE had no plans to vacate the titles and instead had a replacement for Morgan in mind. On this week's Raw, commentator Corey Graves announced that Morgan will be out for several months following her separated shoulder, with reports indicating that she would require surgery. Some veteran stars like Tommy Dreamer and Rikishi have analyzed the injury, the former attributing it to overcompensating in one direction, while the latter blamed it on Morgan not taking the bump properly. This is not the first time that a WWE Women's Tag Team Champion will be replaced by another star, as fellow Hall of Famer Trish Stratus replaced Lita, while Morgan herself also suffered an injury in 2023, which forced her and Rodriguez to vacate the titles. More recently, Naomi took Jade Cargill's place in her partnership with Bianca Belair when they were tag team champions, which laid the foundations for Naomi's current heel run, as it was later revealed that she injured Cargill. Morgan's injury also, in a way, resulted in a match at Night of Champions to be postponed to another date, as Dominik Mysterio told Raw GM Adam Pearce that he, too, is injured like his on-screen partner. The Judgment Day Stars match with AJ Styles will now take place on another date. How Liv Morgan became one of WWE's most important superstars. After a honeymoon period where he could do no wrong, Triple H has taken many hits from fans lately about his WWE creative decisions. Many of those critiques have to do with the women's division. It had gone from the highs of the Four Horsewomen era to starting to become an afterthought again at times. The main event roster was thin, the mid-card titles weren't being given much attention, and, as always, the tag team championship scene was a joke. Things are starting to get better again thanks to the reigns of Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton, and Becky Lynch's heel-turn feud with Lyra Valkyria, but there has been a constant through the highs and lows named Liv Morgan. Even more than Rhea Ripley, Morgan is the MVP of the WWE Women's Division. Liv Morgan has succeeded with everything she's been given. She was a reliable part of the mid-card. She started her WWE main roster run as part of the Riot Squad. An awful storyline with Lana and Bobby Lashley could have destroyed her career. She won Money in the Bank and beat Ronda Rousey to become the SmackDown Women's Champion. Professional wrestling can be a brutal world for the men and women who are a part of it, as releases often come out of nowhere and in abundance, especially in WWE. However, Liv Morgan, who is still only 31, has been with the company for over a decade. That means that she's doing something right, which is all the more impressive considering that she wasn't a consistent main eventer until very recently. Morgan had a decent run in NXT, but in a promotion filled with beautiful, young blondes, she could easily get lost in the shuffle. On the main roster, as part of the Riot Squad with Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan, Morgan stood out due to her personality, but with no women's tag team titles around yet, they could only rise up so far. They did end up competing and losing for the inaugural titles, but just months later, Liv was put on her own. That wasn't always a good thing. Morgan had to really prove herself in horrible storylines, like her one with Lana and Bobby Lashley, but despite how bad it was, Liv looked like a star because her character was convincing. Morgan ended up being rewarded for her hard work by being booked to win the Money in the Bank contract in 2022. That same night, she shocked the world when she cashed in on SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey. This could have been the peak of Liv's career, but it was just the beginning. Liv Morgan carried her feud with